Question 1. To illustrate this point, an international law firm, Gray and Milson LLP, recently suffered a silent exfiltration of case-sensitive documentation via a malicious insider. The firm noticed unusual metadata patterns over a secure VPN, but no files were emailed or uploaded. The RLP analyst determined the loss involved clipboard content being copied into a web-based notepad with ease. What is the most accurate regarding this type of event? A. This constitutes a data breach due to external unauthorized access. B. It is data exfiltration using encrypted channels, hence difficult to detect. C. This is a case of network-based leakage over unsecured transfer. D. It is likely a false positive generated by behavior anomaly detection. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. This scenario reflects covert data exfiltration via encrypted keys, which is difficult to detect using traditional DLP mechanisms. RLP network inspectors may struggle to decrypt and insert TTS with the TSSL intersection. Clipboard activity is categorized under endpoint data loss vectors, requiring endpoint agents with behavioral controls. The RELP threat models. Encrypted web exfiltration is treated as a sophisticated insider threat. Choice B. Best matches RSA's interpretation of such attacks. Question 2. In response to an internal audit, Claritech Inc. wants to classify and tag all its HR records according to sensitivity levels. The challenge is that some documents contain both payroll and personal medical information. How should Claritech define the data classification policy? A. Use only predefined templates to ensure uniformity. B. Classify data by department origin rather than content. C. Apply the highest applicable sensitivity label to any multi-category document. D. Classify data based on user access frequency. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation RLP supports multi-tiered classification. The best practices recommend applying the highest applicable sensitivity level to composite records. RLP's classification engine recognizes overlapping patterns using policy evaluation precedents. According to NIST SB 80060 and ISO 27001 Annex A.8.2, any document containing sensitivity markers should be escalated to the strictest handling rule. Thus, C is correct, whereas A, B, and D either oversimplify or violate confidentiality principles. Question 3. With the advent of distributed workforces, Nexabank deployed RLP components across hybrid environments. They noticed latency in rule enforcement on mobile laptops. After investigation, the problem stemmed from missynchronization between policy updates and agent configurations. Where a ELP component is most likely misconfigured, A. RSA Enterprise Manager or ELP in excerpts. C. RSA Policy Distribution Server. D. RSA Event Collector. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The Policy Distribution Server (PDS) is responsible for distributing update DLP policies to endpoint agents. Delayed policy synchronization is typically caused by issues in the PDS, especially when endpoints are mobile or occasionally disconnected. According to RELP architecture documentation, PDS ensures policy consistency and real-time enforcement. C is correct. While components serve indexing, management, or collection functions, not policy propagation. Question 4. When analyzing enterprise DLP configurations, an RSA certified discovered that multiple rules within a policy flagged the same sensitive document, resulting in conflicting severity labels. What is the best way to resolve such rule conflicts with the RLP? A. Delete all but one matching rule to avoid conflict. B. Use rule precedents to prioritize more critical rules. C. Disable policy inheritance across the system. D. Duplicate the policy across departments for modularity. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation RLP allows rule precedents within a policy to determine the handling of overlaps. This is vital when a document meets multiple rule criteria. Rule priority ensures that critical matches, e.g. containing PI and PCI data, are escalated appropriately. Deleting rules A or duplicating policies. D introduces redundancy and risk. Disabling inheritance. C is not related to rule conf resolution. Therefore, B is the appropriate approach. Question 5. In contrast to traditional keyword matching, RLP offers Data identifiers that apply predefined algorithms to detect regulated data types. Which of the following best illustrates the advantage of using data identifiers over plain regular expressions? A. They are simpler to configure but offer less precision. B. They support exact string matching without false positives. C. They combine pattern logic with validation algorithms for higher accuracy. D. They rely solely on dictionary-based matching of sensitive terms. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation or LP's data identifiers combine pattern recognition. E. G. Rejects with contextual validation such as checksum algorithms for credit card numbers (SSNS). This significantly reduces false positives, making them more accurate than raw rejects or dictionary methods. RSA documentation promotes data identifiers for detecting structured data under PCSS and HICOR. Thus, C reflects the correct function. Other options misunderstand how identifiers work. Question 6. During the process of rolling out endpoint agents, Ventra Systems noted that DLP policies were not triggering on USB file transfers on MacBooks, though they worked on Windows. What is the most plausible reason? A. Endpoint DLP agent for Mockers does not support USB control. B. USB ports on MacBooks cannot be monitored by RELP. C. The policies are not compatible with Mockers due to OS file system. D. Endpoint agent on Mockers may not be installed with proper privileges. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation or LP endpoint agents require elevated privileges to monitor and control USB ports on Mockers. If the agent isn't installed with admin rights, certain kernel-level hooks for file EO tracking won't activate. RSA endpoint DLP supports Mockers with appropriate configurations. D is correct. Options A and B are technically incorrect. SB monitoring is supported. C misattributes the issue to compatibility when it's deployment privilege issue. Question 7. Among the various monitored protocol AT supposes unique challenges for RSA network ELP, which method ails RLP to inspect encrypted HEIS traffic K, bypassing encrypted sessions and focusing only on metadata. B. Using a reverse proxy to extract file names from the session. C. SSL interception via integration with a trust HEIS proxy. D. Disable HEIS to allow inspection over HEIS. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation RSA network DLP requires SALS interception, typically via integration with a secure web proxy that performs decryption and re-encryption. This allows the DLP sensor to inspect the plaintext stream. According to RSA deployment guides, only decrypt HEIS traffic is analyzable. C is correct. A limits visibility. B and D are not recommended practices and compromise security or functionality. Question 8. The foundation of content discovery in data trust scanning lies in identifying sensitive data patterns across enterprise repositories. What challenge arises when scanning unstructured data compared to structured databases? A. Unstructured data cannot be encrypted. B. Content in unstructured files lacks consistent schema. C. File-based systems cannot be scanned without admin rights. D. RELP does not support scanning of unstructured data. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Unstructured data like PDFs documents lacks predefined schemas, making it harder for DLP systems to parse, interpret, and match against policy patterns. RLP use content extraction engines to interpret such formats. Structured data, e.g. databases, are easier to query. Thus, B is correct. A and D are false. C may be partially true, but is not the primary challenge. Question 9. As illustrated by an incident in Apex Pharma, a misconfigured policy allowed confidential chemical research data to be emailed externally. The RSA analyst began triage but was unsure how to escalate and close the alert. What's the proper incident handling sequence at our ELP manager? A. Suppress the alert, export logs, and archive the incident. B. Assign incident to remediation, investigate, and apply resolution action. C. Acknowledge the incident, ignore future triggers, then close. D. Mark as resolved and delete from dashboard. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. RLP manager, incidents should be assigned, investigated, and then resolved or escalated depending on severity. The platform supports a multi-user workflow with comments, audit trail, and policy feedback loops. This is aligned with incident lifecycle best practices under ISO 27035. Option B reflects the full remediation path. A and C are shortcuts. D violates retention and auditability requirements. Question 10. Looking at the data on SOC performance, FusionTech wants to correlate DLP alerts with SIEM dashboards. What is the primary benefit of integrating RLP with a SIEM platform? A. It enables user training notifications. B. It increases endpoint scan frequency. C. It provides centralized visibility and cross-platform threat correlation. D. It filters DLP alerts to avoid regulatory review. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Integration via ELP with CNI. G. RSA NetWitness Splunk enables correlation of DLP events with network, system, and application logs for broader threat analysis. It enhances incident triage, forensic investigation, and compliance reporting. RLP supports this through syslog, Ceph connectors, and NetPeace. Therefore, C is correct. Other options either misrepresent integration outcomes or reflect non-supported features. Question 11. In light of recent developments, bright insecurities, global financial firm is attempting to deploy AELP policies that differ by geographic region due to conflicting data residency laws. The GDPR and the EEPA in California. The compliance team must ensure customer PI is not transmitted outside its jurisdiction, which RLP feature most effectively supports this localization. Implementing role-based access controls. B. Using dynamic content classifiers by region. C. Deploying location-based policy mapping with endpoint groups. D. Creating keyword dictionaries with geographic filters. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation or RLP allows policy scoping based on endpoint groups or network zones for compliance with regional law. DDoE policy mapping by endpoint, location, or group ensures enforcement is contextual to geographic risk. Dynamic classifiers. B. Do not resolve enforcement boundaries. Back A. Affects user access, not policy targeting. Dictionaries. D. Classify content but not geographic applicability. Therefore, C is most aligned with legal compliance needs. Question 12. The evolution of content inspection tools has led Teknova to adopt file fingerprinting to detect confidential engineering blueprints. However, analysts observed that renamed and slightly modified files were evading detection. What steps should be taken to improve detection accuracy in such a scenario? A. Enable hash-based scanning with strict file name matching. B. Use partial document fingerprinting with threshold tuning. C. Disable pattern recognition and rely only on keyword matches. D. Convert files to image format before scanning. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Partial fingerprinting with tunable similarity thresholds allows RLP to detect documents that have been slightly modified, renamed, or reformatted. Unlike exact hash matching, partial fingerprinting scans for fragments of known content. This method is resilient to evasion tactics like formatting changes. Option B reflects best practice in high-risk environments. The other options are ineffective or irrelevant to fingerprinting optimization. Question 13. From a practical standpoint, the director at CoreAxis Inc. notices that developers are frequently using USB drives to back up code repositories. Although endpoint agents are deployed RLP int blocking transfers unless a policy explicitly lists the file extension, what settings should be re-evaluated to ensure policy coverage? A. Enforce system-wide encryption of removable media. B. Enable contextual scanning of file content, not just extensions. C. Disable shadow copies to improve response time. D. Use read-only mode for all peripheral devices. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. RLP can be configured to inspect file content rather than relying solely on file extensions, which can be spoofed. Content-based identification ensures coverage even if users rename files to bypass rules. Disabling shadow copy, C, or enforcing encryption, A, is unrelated to detection logic. D is over-restrictive and not nuanced. Thus, B is the most precise control for content-aware enforcement. Question 14. Upon closer examination, an RELP administrator noticed an influx of medium-severity incidents involving outbound FTP transfers containing customer contact lists. Despite policy activation, the system does not escalate these as critical events. What is most likely missing in the configuration? A. The FTP channel has not been added to the incident escalation group. B. The keyword dictionary used does not match contact list format. C. The policy severity level for contact data is set too low. D. The DLP agent is deployed only on inbound traffic sensors. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. RLP policy severity levels directly influence incident escalation thresholds. If contact list violations are marked as medium or low, they won't trigger critical alerts, even if sensitive. Adjusting rule severity ensure FTP-based PI transfer is treated as high risk. Channel assignment A and sensor direction D are less relevant, while B could contribute. Severity calibration C is central to alert handling. Question 15. To determine whether a cloud-based file sharing app like Dropbox should be allowed for internal file transfers, a healthcare firm sets policies using OLP Cloud Connector. Which control mechanism is best used to prevent uploads of patient records without disabling the app entirely? A. Block all access to cloud storage sites. B. Set DLP policies to monitor and encrypt all outbound content. C. Apply content inspection with conditional blocking based on file type and content. D. Allow unrestricted access with post-incident reporting. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. RLP enables granular cloud control via integration with CASP or proxies, allowing conditional blocking based on content type or sensitivity. G. Find the HIPAA. This avoids full app restriction and ensures compliance. Option C reflects the modern DLP strategy of selective enforcement. Options A and D are either too rigid or reactive. B adds unnecessary complexity for scenarios that only require content control. Question 16. The central argument for visual DLP monitoring is improving executive oversight. A security director at Meridian wants to track data loss trends by department over 6 months. Which dashboard configuration best supports this requirement? A. A daily alert summary for all violations. B. A role-based dashboard with severity filters. C. A time-based trend analysis by policy violation and department. D. A real-time incident feed across all users. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Trend dashboards at RELP allow slicing data by department, policy, severity, and time window, enabling meaningful executive insights. Option C provides longitudinal views, crucial for strategic decision-making. Real-time feeds D and alert summaries A are too granular. Role-based views B are better for access control, not performance trend visualization. Question 17. Based on the information, a financial services company must ensure RELP policy and incident history can be restored after a ransomware attack. Which aspect is essential for full system continuity? A. Only the RELP database backup. B. Backing up the DLP manager's configuration files and event logs. C. Configuration files and SIEM connector logs. D. Daily manual exports of violation reports. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. To fully recover RELP capabilities, backup must include policy configurations, event logs, user roles, and system settings from the DLP manager. This ensures that the system can resume without policy corruption or lost historical data. B is correct. The database alone A is insufficient. C ignores policy and user settings. D supports compliance but does not allow operation or restoration. Question 18. In the absence of a documented disaster recovery plan, Zenith Corp experienced 36-hour of RLP downtime due to a server crash. Which configuration would best minimize future disruption? A. Implementing hot swappable SIEM integration. B. Deploying a high availability pair of DLP managers. C. Switching to cloud native DLP architecture. D. Using read-only backup servers for redundancy. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. High availability. RLP is achieved through paired DLP manager servers with failover capabilities. This minimizes service interruption during hardware or OS failure. B is best. Cloud native. C is not directly supported without architectural redesign. Seam hot swap A does not protect DLP function. Read-only backups. D do not provide active failover functionality. Question 19. Examining the consequences of poor tagging, a media company using a third-party classification tool integrated it with RLP. However, RSA failed to block certain files labeled a confidential. What likely caused this oversight? RLP does not support external metadata. B. File tags were not mapped correctly in RLP policy conditions. C. Tagging tool applied encryption to prevent detection. D. The tags were added post-policy evaluation. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. For external classification tools to interoperate with RELP, their metadata tags must be mapped to policy conditions. Without this mapping, RSA cannot interpret or enforce based on external labels. B is the accurate cause. RELP does support external tags. A in encryption. C is not described. D could matter but is not as fundamental as the mapping issue. Question 20. To better understand policy performance, Securities engaged an RSA consultant who advised avoiding overly broad rules. What is the most significant downside of broad, catch-all DLP policies? A. They fail to detect any sensitive data. B. They increase false positives, reducing alert effectiveness. C. They improve efficiency by reducing scan times. D. They eliminate the need for user education. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Broad DLP rules tend to generate numerous false positives, which dilute meaningful alerts and burden analysts. RSA best practices emphasize granular, well-scoped policies that target high-risk content while minimizing noise. B is correct. A is incorrect. Broad rules detect too much, not too little. C and D reflect misconceptions about policy function and education. Question 21. The most significant aspect of RLP deployment at MedServ Health involved segmenting roles among analysts, managers, and auditors. The security team found duplicated alerts when multiple roles accessed the same incident. How should the system admin optimize role definitions to reduce noise but maintain accountability? A. Assign the same roles to all users to unify views. B. Separate incident visibility by user roles with strict permissions. C. Disable alert generation for junior analysts. D. Use a shared incident queue accessible by all roles. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. RLP's role-based access control RBAC allows granular permissions for incident visibility and action. Separating visibility by role reduces duplicate reviews and supports accountability and segregation of duties. Unifying roles A or shared queues D increase noise, while disabling alerts C risks missed events. B aligns with RSA best practices and compliance frameworks like SOX. Question 22. When faced with a database storing customer credit card numbers mixed with general transaction data, a retail firm deployed a ELP database scanning. However, many false positives occurred due to numeric fields unrelated to cards. What features should be utilized to improve accuracy? A. Enable column-level data masking. B. Use context-aware database fingerprinting. C. Scan all columns indiscriminately. D. Disable scanning of numeric fields. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Context-aware scanning leverages column metadata and pattern recognition to reduce false positives. ELP database scanners use field-level identifiers to differentiate sensitive numbers from generic numeric data, aligning with ECIS compliance needs. Masking A is a protective control, not a detection tuning. C. Causes noise. D. Reduces coverage. Question 23. Several experts suggest that when an endpoint DLP agent quarantines suspicious files but users repeatedly attempt to copy them out, what is the best additional control RSA recommends to enforce? A. Automatically delete quarantine files after 24 hours. B. Alert it but allow user override to avoid disruption. C. Lockdown USB and removable media access until incident resolution. D. Require multi-factor authentication for file transfers. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation or LP endpoint agents provide removable media lockdown, a critical control to prevent repeated exfiltration attempts, temporarily blocking USB devices until remediation preserves security without deleting files. Alerts with overrides. B. Weaken controls. Deleting files. A. Risks data loss at FA. D. Is unrelated to file copying controls. C. Ensures effective enforcement. Question 24. In terms of maintaining narrow LP infrastructure, a system admin schedule patch updates but notices endpoint agents fail to connect after upgrades. Which practice best prevents such disruption? A. Upgrade all components simultaneously for consistency. B. Test patches in a staging environment before production rollout. C. Disable endpoint encryption before patching. D. Skip agent upgrades to maintain compatibility. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Testing patches in a staging environment before production is a standard best practice. It identifies compatibility or connectivity issues like those with agents. Simultaneous upgrades. A. Risk widespread failures. Disabling encryption. C. Undermines security. And skipping updates. D. Creates vulnerabilities. RSA strongly recommends staged patching. Question 25. While examining the enterprise's security stack, Security Architect plans to integrate RELP with endpoint detection and response edit tools. What is primary benefit of this integration? A. Automatically block all network traffic during incidents. B. Provide coordinated response by correlating endpoint and data loss events. C. Replace RELP's built-in incident workflow with EDA systems. D. Encrypt endpoint data to prevent data loss. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Integrating RLP with EDA enhances contextual awareness and incident response coordination by correlating data loss and endpoint threat events. This improves detection accuracy and remediation efficiency. Blocking all traffic. A. Is extreme at replacing workflows. C. Removes DLP control. Encrypting data. D. Is unrelated to integration benefits. B. Aligns with best practice. Question 26. Considering the evidence a multinational company needs to prove compliance with multiple privacy regulations during an audit, which RELP feature most efficiently supports audit readiness? A. Real-time blocking of all external emails. B. Comprehensive and customizable compliance reports. C. Disabling all removable media to reduce risk. D. Using only default policy templates. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation RLP's customizable reporting provides detailed exportable evidence for auditors covering policy violations, user actions, and remediation steps. This supports frameworks like DDR, HIPAA, and ECESS. Real-time blocking A or disabling media C are controls but don't support audit documentation. Default templates D may lack regulatory specificity. B ensures audit. Question 27. Throughout the course of a deployment, a tech firm or PPs to integrate DLP data with their internal ticketing system. What is the main advantage of using RELPs? A. Avoid having to monitor DLP incidents. B. Automate incident creation and streamline remediation workflows. C. Disable manual policy updates in favor of API calls. D. Increase DLP system performance by offloading processing. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation RLPs enable automation of incident management, allowing seamless creation of tickets, assignment, and status updates, improving efficiency and reducing response times. These do not replace monitoring, nor do they disable policy management. C. They also don't affect processing performance. D. B is correct and industry best practice. Question 20. By evaluating OLP logs, the system admin notices that certain network sensors consume excessive CPU resources scanning high-volume encrypted traffic. What tuning step could optimize performance without sacrificing detection? A. Exclude scanning of all encrypted traffic. B. Use SSL floating proxies to decrypt traffic before inspection. C. Disable content fingerprinting for encrypted protocols. D. Increase agent scanning interval to reduce load. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Using SSL offloading proxies enables decryption of encrypted traffic before passing RELP sensors, reducing CPU load while preserving inspection fidelity. Excluding encryption. A. Misses threats. Disabling fingerprinting. C. Weakens detection. Increasing intervals. D. Delays alerts. B. Is the recommended approach for RSA documentation. Question 29. When evaluating the merits of overlapping rules in a COMPLA or ELP policy, an analyst finds some critical violations being overshadowed by more general, low-priority rules. How can rule precedence help? A. By executing all rules simultaneously without order. B. By prioritizing more specific and critical rules to trigger first. C. By ignoring rule precedence and focusing on frequency. D. By merging all rules into a single general rule. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Rule precedence dictates the order in which rules are evaluated, allowing specific and critical rules to take priority over general ones, thus preventing overshadowing, simultaneous execution. A. Or merging. D. Risks false negatives or excess alerts. Ignoring precedence. C. Impairs policy effectiveness. B. Aligns with RSA best practices and standard ELP frameworks. Question 30. A common misconception about RLP user roles is that granting broad permissions improves efficiency. What is a significant risk of over-permissioning? It enables faster incident resolution by all staff. B. It risks unauthorized policy changes and data exposure. C. It reduces the need for training new users. D. It eliminates the need for multi-factor authentication. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Excessive permissions increase the attack surface by allowing unauthorized changes to policies or access to sensitive incident data, violating principles of least privilege and potentially breaching compliance mandates like SOC DDR. B. Is a key security risk. A. C. and D are incorrect assumptions. Restrictive roles protect integrity and accountability.